All right, I want to welcome everybody to the Mass Low Map webinars for busy lawyers. This is the first one of this month, and I'm delighted to be able to introduce my good friend, Jamie Jackson Spannhake. Jamie is going to give us a fabulous webinar in just a minute, but I want to tell you a little bit about Jamie. Jamie is a lawyer, a writer, a speaker, and a coach. She practices law as a partner at Berlandi, Nussbaum & Reitzes, LLP, serving clients in Connecticut and New York. She is the author of the book, The Lawyer, the Lion, and the Laundry, 3 Hours to Finding Your Calm in the Chaos. And we are certainly in the midst of chaos now. This was named by Biggle Legal as one of the best books for lawyers to read in 2019, specifically in the category of personal growth and happiness. Jamie received her certification as a health coach from the Institute for Integrative Nutrition in New York City. She regularly writes and speaks on issues important to lawyers, including mind management, stress management, work-life integration, and time management. So any of you who are new, these webinars that we have pretty regularly are designed to give you practical information in just 20 to 30 minutes. And this is information that you're going to be able to take back and put to use right away. I want to let you know if you have any questions, all you need to do is write them into the chat box. And when you do that, I will see all of those questions, and I promise you I will read all of them to Jamie at the end of her presentation. She'll have as much time as needed. There's absolutely no rush here, so she'll be able to answer every single one of your questions. Just put them in the chat box as soon as you think of them. So without anything further, I'm going to turn this over to Jamie. Take it away.
Thank you so much, Susan. All right, I'm going to share my screen so that everyone can see what I can see. All right, so let's go to the beginning. Here we go. So welcome to today's webinar, Transforming Your Relationship with Time to Achieve More While Doing Less. Thank you so much for joining me, and thank you to the Massachusetts Law Office Management Assistance Program and to Lawyers Concerned for Lawyers for hosting this webinar. So Susan already introduced me, so I won't tell you much more about me other than in case you are wondering why you should listen to me for time management, I want to tell you that it is because I have lived the same too busy, too much stress life of practicing law. And I've researched and attended a lot of workshops and talked to innumerable people about what works for them. And I have tried a lot of different things, and I've done the testing for you, and I want to share with you today what I have learned and what works. So let's get started. The webinar today, as you know, will last about 30 minutes, and I'll speak for about 20 to 25 minutes, and then, as Susan said, we'll open it to questions. So an overview of the program today will cover 3 areas. The first is the reality of time and how much we have of it, and discuss if you're setting yourself up to fail. Second, how to take action to maximize your time so that you can minimize what you must do so that you can achieve more while doing less. And last, we'll explore transforming your relationship with time through your thoughts and words by understanding how the words we use and the way we think about time thwarts us. Then we're going to craft an action plan for what to do today to implement what you learned today. And like I said, we'll end with question and answers. Now, in order to achieve these objectives today, I am going to ask you to engage in a few written exercises that's really going to require you to think about how you spend your time. And I encourage you to do those exercises because The amount of benefit that you'll get from the webinar today is directly tied to the thought and the energy that you put into the exercises. So, our first area is the reality of time. So the reality of time is that we have quite a lot of it, even though it doesn't always feel like we do. Each week has 168 hours. 168 hours, that is a lot of hours. And if you sleep 8 hours a night, which you need because good sleep is the foundation of good health, that still leaves you 112 waking hours each week to do all the stuff that you need to do. Now, even when we know that we have 112 waking hours, it feels like there isn't enough. Now, note that I did not create this meme because the grammar is not great, but I do think it's funny. Because when we are busy, it feels like we have less time. But the reality is that time is the same, no matter how much or how little we need to do. There are always 168 hours in a week. So the first step in transforming our relationship with time is to get clear on what you need and want to do and how much time that will take. So that's what we're going to do in the following exercise. We're going to start with a time in your life in a week and break it down to the time spent on specific activities. And there will be handouts that will be sent to you at the end of the webinar, and you'll have an opportunity to apply this exercise to your work week as well. But we're going to start by looking at your life as a whole. So this exercise is called the 168-hour week. And it's one of my favorite exercises. So we're going to quantify your time. You're going to consider the details of what you need and want in your life. And you can do this one of two ways. You can focus on what is right now, or you can focus on what you want it to be. So for example, if you are working 50 hours a week, but you'd like to work 40 hours a week, you can use either of those numbers when you quantify your time for work. I find it helpful to do both. Sometimes it is good to start with what is, because it's easier, obviously, to make a change when you understand the reality of your circumstances right now. So you decide right now which is best for you for this exercise. And we're going to consider these categories that are on the slide. We're going to consider the number of hours that you sleep, the number of hours that you work. We're going to consider your relationships, your fitness and health, your hobbies, your household responsibilities, things like cleaning, cooking, grocery shopping, commuting and driving, and also if there's anything else that is not included in these broad categories, then you should include it in your list. So let me explain how we're going to break this down. So you want to think about those broad categories, and you want to break down the categories into specific items. So I have examples on this slide if you need guidance for thinking about breaking those down into specific items. So if you, for example, want to work less and more efficiently, then you'll do this entire exercise with your work week later, like we said. So I'm going to go back to the previous slide and give you 2 to 3 minutes to figure out how much time you need for each category. So you'll think of the various things in each category and how much time you spend in a day. So how long are you in the office? How much time do you want to spend with family or friends each evening or on the weekends? When do you exercise? When would you like to exercise? What are your hobbies and your household chores? So I'll stop talking so you have some quiet to quantify your time, and I'll let you know when a couple of minutes have passed. So take the time now to quantify your time in these categories on a daily and weekly basis. So ultimately what we want to know is the number of hours per week that you're going to spend doing these, okay? So just take a few minutes. So I've left the slide here with the different categories so that you make sure that you're considering all the ways that you spend your time in the average week. So we're going to take about 30 more seconds. Okay, go ahead and wrap up whatever you're considering or writing down now. Okay, so I've done this exercise, and what we're going to do is we're going to add all those hours together. So when I do this for my work week, well, the whole week, not just my work week, Sunday to Saturday, I get 188.5 hours in order to do all the things I want and need to do. And I'm sure you see the problem here, is that there are only 168 hours in a week. And in order for me to do all the things I want and need to do, I need 27 hours in each day to succeed at all the things I want and need to do. So it's impossible. I have set myself up for failure. And if you have more than 168 hours of things that you want and need to do each week, you have set yourself up for failure. So no matter how much you work, no matter how great at time management you are, you're always going to fail because there's always going to be things that you did not do. So for me, if I keep my wants and needs at 188.5 hours, I'm going to have about 20 hours of things each week that I didn't do. So we will always feel like there's not enough time. So what do we do? First of all, if your total was less than 168 hours, good for you. You are one step ahead of the rest of us. You have reasonable expectations for what your time is, and with the exercises that we're going to continue doing in the webinar, you'll be able to enjoy even more time in your life. So what do we do now that we know that we are trying to pour more activities into our days than the cup of time allows? Well, as far as I know, we have two options. We can create time, or we can reduce what we must do. I haven't figured out how to create time. If you have, please let me know, because I would love to know. So the answer is that we must reduce what we must do. So That's what we're going to explore in the next exercise. So the next exercise is going to address this question. You were so busy wondering if you could do it, you never stopped to ask if you should do it. And that's where we're going now with another one of my favorite exercises, which is called the 3 B's. So my dear friend, who is also a life coach, taught this exercise to me. And it is from Martha Beck, who is a life coach trainer. And it's called the 3 B's. So for each activity or responsibility or obligation that you detailed in the 168-hour exercise, you're going to ask 3 questions. Can you bag it? Can you barter it? Or can you better it? And here's how it works. Can you bag it? That means, can you just not do it? There are some things in life that we can just decide not to do. And this is the first step to reducing what you must do. Now, keep in mind, there are always consequences when you decide not to do something. But if you are okay with those consequences, then perhaps you can just not do it. And I'll give you a simple example from my life. So I have 1 child, 2 cats, and 2 dogs. And I need to vacuum really every single day in my house for me to have sparkling clean floors. But I don't want to vacuum every single day, so I don't. And the consequence is that my floors are not as clean as I would like for them to be. So I bag that. So there are things in life, and that's what you want to consider, that maybe you just won't do, and that will be okay. The next question that you're going to ask, if you can't bag it, can you barter it? And this means, can you delegate it to someone or have someone else do it? And this is a great tool, especially at work. True bartering doesn't involve payment, but for our purposes, if you can pay someone or pay a service to do a thing, then that will be considered bartering. So you can really reduce the things that you personally must do to fit within the finite time limitations of a week, but you can still achieve all of the things that you want to achieve with bartering. So this is one of the best ways to achieve more while doing less. And if we stick with my not so clean floors example at my house, I could barter this, which is what I do, to have a house cleaner come in twice a month and really clean the house. I could also get a robot vacuum, a Nito robot vacuum, to clean the floors. So either one of those would be considered bartering. So hopefully by now your mind is starting to consider all the things on your to-do list and your 168 hours exercise that you can bag or barter. And we're going to apply these 3 B's to all those items. But before we do that, let me tell you about how to better it. And then we'll go through the exercise of applying the 3 B's. So the last question, if you can't bag it, or you don't want to bag it, you can't barter it or you don't want to barter it, can you better it? And this is for things that you must do yourself, which there are things in the world that only you can do. No one can eat for you, no one can sleep for you, no one can do some things that you do at work, no one can exercise for you. That would be nice if they could. So you can't have someone else do those things for you. And there's other things on your list, your obligations that you can't have someone else do necessarily. So find a way to better it. And that is find a way to do it that works better for you. And so an example, another simple example in my life is getting up early. I do not like to get up early. I like to be up early because I like to have time in a quiet house to meditate or write or work on something that I am interested in, like perhaps this webinar. And how can I better that if I want to get up early? And what I did was I bought a coffee pot that had a timer on it, and it starts brewing coffee at the same moment that my alarm goes off. So I can smell the coffee and it motivates me to get up. So it's a simple little tweak, but it betters my morning and it helps me do the things that I want and need to do and feel better about them. So we might say that without that coffee pot, I never would have written a book. So bettering things, while they might seem small, can make a really big difference. So here we are applying the 3 B's. So even if you had less than 168 hours in the first exercise that we did, there may be an opportunity for you to achieve more while doing less using the 3 B's. So go through your list now, and I'm going to give you a couple minutes to do this. And again, you'll get as far as you can, and then you can finish up after the webinar. There will be some handouts and a worksheet that will come via email, I believe, after the webinar that you can use to really break these down and do these again. So your goal is to get to 168 hours or less, because as we know, time is finite and your obligations can seem unlimited. So you must have realistic expectations based upon the number of hours in the day. So go through your list of wants and needs, which are the specific items that you listed in the last exercise, and ask the 3 B's for each item. So take about a minute and a half right now, and I'll be quiet so you can think and focus, and I'll let you know when time is up. So do as much as you can, and if you don't get through everything, you can finish up after the webinar. All right, so I'm going to set a timer. All right, in the interest of time, we're going to stop there. But the slide that you're looking at now is an aspirational plan. So this might be what you're trying to achieve. Your hours will differ and your activities may differ, but all of this equals up to 112 hours. And of course, this is going to be an aspirational plan. And not everything will always go according to plan, but in order to utilize your time effectively, we must understand how much time we have and develop realistic expectations for how much we personally can get done, and then incorporate delegating or bartering it to achieve more while doing less. So before we move on to the last area of discussion today, I just want to remind you that you can accomplish more in your law practice in less time by applying the 3 B's to every task at work. So bartering and bagging are 2 big things that can really help you be more productive at work. Obviously, some things you can't bag, but some things you can. So ask the 3 B's for every task that you do at work. And a good way to start that is, we're all, as lawyers, used to tracking our time with the billable hour. So for maybe a week, at least a couple of days, really track everything that you do at work. You know, the time you spend on email, phone calls, invoicing, in addition to all the billable stuff you do. So you can see where you're spending your time. And this is a good way to reduce those hours at work and still achieve more than you maybe already are. Okay. So we will now go to the last section of the webinar, which is the language and thoughts of time transformation. So we've learned that time is what it is. We can't change time. There's always 168 hours in a week. We all have that, 168 hours in a week. But we can change what we do with the time in the day. So let's explore some of the language that we can use and the thoughts that we can think that can transform our relationship with time. And for some people, this may seem like semantics, but it is more. Our thoughts and words can change our outcomes. And you can think of other areas in your life where this is true, that the words we use define who we are and what we do. So let's explore that now. So these are phrases that are not helpful in your relationship with time. So we'll explore these and then we'll look at some alternatives that are helpful. So I'm so busy. This is a big one. And the problem with this one is that everyone says it. We're all busy, so it doesn't really mean much. I stopped saying I'm so busy, and my relationship with time, my life, improved significantly, because every time I say or think, oh my gosh, I'm so busy, I just feel busy. I feel stressed and like I'm rushing all the time and running from one activity to another. And the same is true when we tell ourselves, I don't have enough time. You know, even if that feels true, and even if you're convinced that it is true, saying it is not helpful. When we say it to ourselves, our minds think it is a fact. And it closes the door to possibilities as we resign ourselves to the fact that we don't have enough time. But as we've already learned today, it isn't a fact, because there are ways we can change what we have to do in our time, which can let us have enough time to manage the things and handle the things that are important to us. Another problem with I don't have enough time is that it closes the door for other people to offer opportunities to us. If they think that we don't have time, then there may be opportunities that they're not even sharing with us because they think that we're not going to have time to address them. And I know that we sometimes use these two, I'm so busy and I don't have enough time, as a shield to protect ourselves from more work, because we don't want people to give us more work to do. And I understand that, and we'll address that issue when we look at the helpful alternatives to this language. Also not helpful is saying that I have to do things. Many times we feel like there are so many things we have to do, but in reality, there are lots of things. Almost everything is a choice. Again, there may be consequences if we don't do them, but we could just choose not to do them if we were okay with those consequences. And lastly, and perhaps most importantly, the least helpful word sometimes is yes. Because when we say yes to obligations that we don't want to do and things that don't align with our values and our goals, it takes us away from things that are important to us. So this little word yes can be really problematic at times. And this is a photo of my daughter and me. And I always consider this whenever I'm faced with a new opportunity, that saying yes to one thing means saying no to something else. and sometimes someone else. So choose wisely what you do with the finite hours in your week and in your life, and live your values. So we know what's not helpful in our thoughts and the way that we talk about time. What is helpful? So instead of saying, I don't have enough time, say, I have too much to do. And why is that? Because I have too much to do is an empowering statement. You can change what you have to do. You cannot change how many hours are in a day. So when you say, I have too much to do, you've set yourself up in a situation where you can do something to help yourself. I have lots of opportunities right now. This is a good one as an alternative to I don't have enough time. So they could be opportunities for growth. They could be for helping others, for improving your skills. They could be opportunities for anything. So that when you view all your obligations as opportunities, again, it empowers you to choose which opportunity you want to focus on, rather than making you feel like a victim of your obligations and of the amount of time in a day. And when you view things, your obligations, the things you need to do or want to do, as opportunities, you also can apply the 3 B's to bag, barter, or better each of those opportunities, because some opportunities are not opportunities that we want to take. Instead of saying I have to, try I get to. I have to fix lunch for my kids. I have to get up early. I have to write a brief. Try I get to do these things. Whatever it is, tell yourself and others that you get to do these things. So once again, you're telling yourself that these are choices, which empowers you to make change and take control over the amount of things that you are doing with the time that you have. Now, the last 3 items on the slide all address the issues of not wanting to take on something and saying in response that you don't have time to take it on. And this is when we say to other people, oh, I'm so busy. Oh, I just don't have time. Because we don't want more obligations, more work. So first, ask if a task is aligned with your values. Ask yourself. Or if it is moving you towards your vision of your life. If the answer is no, then this is not something that you want to take on. You're going to ask yourself if you're going to choose not to do it because there's something more important to you. And if both of those are true, then the best way to handle those is to just say no, period, if you can. Because when we say no, I don't have time, the response from other people is they help us. They help us have more time to do this extra task that they want us to do. But we don't want to do it anyway. So if you need something else to say other than just no, but thank you for thinking of me. No, thank you for the opportunity. I'd love to do something like that in the future. These are better ways to say no. All right, so what to do today? Let's talk about an action plan. So we've explored 3 areas in this webinar. Let's take a minute to determine your action plan and which of these tools and techniques you're going to implement today. So to review, we explored the reality of time and learned how to set yourself up for success with 168 hours exercise. We applied the 3 B's to reduce what you must do and allow you to achieve more while doing less. And we explored helpful language and thoughts for transforming your relationship with time. So based upon what we covered, what do you want to implement or further explore today? Decide what you're going to do today to improve your relationship with time It might be applying the 168 hours exercise to your week or to your work day, starting today. It might be delegating tasks at work or hiring someone to handle obligations outside of work by using the 3 B's. Or it might be putting a sticky note on your computer to remind you to ask yourself if an opportunity aligns with your values. So whatever it is, write it down and commit to doing it today. So now we're going to open it up to question and answer. Before we do that, Susan, I just want to let everyone know that you'll be getting these slides in an email. And there's resources here for some books and to my website and my book as well. And my contact information if anyone wants to reach out. But I'm going to stop sharing my screen. Okay.
Great. Thank you, Jamie. This was fabulous. We have a question about whether you have any kind of personal recommendation for how to prioritize a daily to-do list.
Yeah. So I don't love to-do lists to begin with because I find that oftentimes we end up putting out fires and doing a lot of things that seem really important, but they're not actually moving the ball forward. So I like to, at the beginning of the week, I like to start with a meditation so that I am calm. And then I like to look over my work tasks, like what needs to happen this week, and prioritize in whatever is the best way for those tasks. So whether it's a deadline or an expectation, focusing on those things. The other thing I like to do to integrate personal and professional is I have 5 questions that I ask in the morning, each morning, and based upon my priorities in life, not just in work. So how am I going to move my body today? What matters am I going to work on? How am I going to connect with the people that are important to me? And a few other questions that are personal to me. So I think when you have that framework, it makes prioritizing easier.
We have another question. Do you recommend the Eisenhower box of urgent and important? I don't even know what that is, so sorry.
I'm not familiar with the Eisenhower box, but if it is similar to, I think it's the 4 categories where there's like urgent and important, urgent, not urgent, important, not important, not urgent. I do like that idea if that's what this is referring to, because that gets around what I said I didn't like so much about to-do lists to begin with, is that you end up doing these things that are not really that important, that are urgent, when really more important, not urgent, might be a better use of time. So if that is what the Eisenhower box is, then yes, I do. Correct.
Yeah. Yes. Yeah. And, a question that I was sort of thinking about, you mentioned how you kind of need to align with values. And I was thinking, like, for so many people, this, it's challenging to make a decision about what really is important, right? So that prioritization. I wonder if you could speak a little bit more about how you do that and how you recommend people figure out what is important to them.
Yeah. Well, I recommend that you get my book and you work through the first chapter. But to summarize that, is that I think that it's really important that we spend the time on our own determining what our values are, because if we go into our workplace, into our day, into our life without that clarity, we have so much coming at us that we just get lost in other people's expectations of what they think is important for us to do. So I find it really important to sit down and ask questions about who's important to you, what, like, financial situation is important to you, what you want the people around you to be like, what kind of person you want to be, what kind of relationships you want to, do you want to be a mother, a father, a parent, a child, a spouse, all the different roles that you want to play in life. And then create your value statement, like a company would have a mission statement. And whenever you're faced with a new opportunity, review your value statement and say, does this move me toward this value statement or away from it? And if it moves you away from it, then maybe it's not something to take on.
Thank you, Jamie. And I do recommend everybody pick up Jamie's book. I think it's so valuable to go through those exercises and really think through some of these questions. So I want to thank you very much for your time today, and thank everybody for tuning in. I want to let you know a couple of things, that we will have a recording of this program along with the materials Jamie has sent us as soon as possible. Have them up on the website, so you can go back to this and go through the recording again with the download that she has provided at your leisure. I want to also let you know that over at Mass LOMAP, if you need one-on-one consultations, you can take care of that. You can go right to our Mass LOMAP website. It's masslomap.org. Hit the schedule button and set up an appointment with one of our practice advisors. If you are looking for coaching, I suggest you reach out to Jamie. She's fabulous. She'll be able to help you. And stay tuned. We do not have confirmation yet of our next presenter, but I promise you we will have another one. You will get a link to the recording. I see somebody just put that question up. It is there, but you can also always go onto our website directly, and as soon as it is available, you will find it. If you Google Jamie's name, if you Google this program, if you Google the webinars for busy lawyers, you'll be able to get there as well that way, but you'll be getting a link. I want to just remind you that we are here for you. We'll have additional programs. Like I said, I don't have confirmation of the next one, and we had somebody scheduled who had to cancel. Yes, the recording will be available. That's what I'm trying to emphasize. A recording of this program will be available. It will be posted. You'll be able to get it in due course, not too long at all. So thank you everybody for tuning in. I hope you have a fabulous afternoon, and see you soon.
Thank you.